Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to continue the main program of our Cyber Security Nordic 2023. Now, during the next couple of hours, we will be focusing on business resilience from many different viewpoints. And we'll begin by taking a look at what data tells us about the future, and not just one or two, but multiple data points. How is the world shaping and impacting cybersecurity industry? And furthermore, how to prepare for 2024. Big questions, but fortunately we've got just the right person to tackle these issues. He has more than 20 years of experience in senior and executive leadership positions in IT, telecom, and forest industries. Earlier in his career, he worked for 17 years at Ericsson and then joined Stora Enso in 2017. At Stora Enso, he served, among other things, as a CIO, Chief Intelligence Officer, and for his accomplishments there, he also received the CIO of the Year award in 2020 in Finland. Last year, he was appointed the new CEO of the cybersecurity company Nixu Corporation, and now he's here to analyze the most critical capabilities and top concerns in the field. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to give you the CEO of Nixu, Mr. Teemu Salmi.
Good afternoon, and what a great introduction. Thank you so much for that. It's great to be here. I think I have the tough journey here after lunch to make sure that I keep you all awake. You know, stomach is full of food, it's a fairly dark room, and it's easy to close your eyes and dream away to something else than cybersecurity, right? But I'll do my very best in the next 25 minutes to give you a bit of insight into cybersecurity from our client's perspective. So that's what I will do. And at the end, of course, we'll also have some time for questions from you in the audience, if there might be any. Right, I think we'll skip this one. I had such a great introduction already, so thank you for that. And we'll get straight into the topic of today, or the topics of today. Like I said, we'll talk a little bit about the feedback from our clients and what they're saying about current state, future of cybersecurity, and where they are investing and how they actually work with the leadership question around cybersecurity in their respective companies. Then I will end off my presentation with sharing a bit of insights into a white paper that we just released, I think, this week, which we call the 7 Pillars of Business Resilience, which is there to help all of you to look into how to work with business resilience from a cybersecurity perspective as well. Good. So let's jump straight into the material of our Nixu Cybersecurity Index. Last year, we conducted this survey with our clients for the first time. Asking roughly 150 of our clients how they think about cybersecurity from 4 different aspects. So, current state, what is the maturity right now with cybersecurity in your company? Management, how do you actually work with the cybersecurity question in your company? How is it treated in the executive team? How do you work with the board when it comes to maturing and developing the cybersecurity topic in the company? Investments, how do you invest? How much do you invest? Where do you invest when it comes to cybersecurity? And last but not least, future development. Which are the most critical capabilities and areas, topical areas to invest for the future? So we did this year again, and this year we had even more respondents. We have 370, roughly, companies answering to the survey this year. And just to show you a little bit about the demographics about the survey before we get into the results. You can see it's Nordic-based. We are a Nordic-based company, so the respondents are primarily from the Nordics, and we also have a presence in Benelux. So 58% of the respondents are from Finland, so it's a very Finland-heavy, this survey. But there's also, of course, as you can see, representation from other Nordic countries. And from a sector perspective, IT and communications represents roughly 1/4 of the respondents, followed by the industrial sector with another 17%, as you can see on the on the chart. And then from a company size perspective, so roughly 50% are small, mid-sized companies, and the other half is then larger enterprises and larger corporations and public businesses as well. So key findings this year. We divided our key findings into 5 areas, and I intend to go through them a little bit more in detail here. But if we start off with the first key finding, is that 81% of the companies that we have surveyed, they say that they invest in cybersecurity for business resilience, which makes quite a lot of sense, right? You need to make sure that your operation is working 24/7, 365 every day. AI, as a topical area, has come from basically nowhere. We did not see so much feedback or comments about AI in our survey last year, but this year it's all over the place. So AI as a topic has risen, and we'll talk more about that in a while. Then the top 3 areas for future investments. When we've asked our clients which are the most important areas you will continue to invest in the next coming 12 months, the ones popping up are security monitoring, security awareness, and identity and access management. Those are the 3 priority areas. 59% of our customers are saying that it's hard to attract talent to their companies. I think this shows a little bit about the challenge that we are facing in the cybersecurity industry right now and for the future. There's just not enough of talent to tackle the issues and challenges we have ahead. So how do we address that? What do we do there? We'll talk about that. Last but not least, when we look at the best performers in the survey compared to the rest, there's quite a big gap in what they do and what they do not do between the best and the rest. And I'll share you some insights on that with you as well. But if we start from the top then, and I said that 81% of our clients answered that business resilience is the most important reason that they invest in cybersecurity. What are then the other reasons? Here you can see that on second place comes compliance, which is not strange either, considering the number of new regulatory requirements that are coming into place. We have NIS2, we have DORA, we have EUCS. There's many different regulations that are being developed and being put in place. So of course, for our clients, it's very important and also hard to understand what do they mean in practice and how do we actually implement processes, ways of working in order to be compliant and secure that we don't have any breaches. Third, brand reputation, I think goes without saying, even though I think that in general, the acceptance for a cybersecurity breach today is very much different than only 2-3 years ago, right? Because I think that everybody have had some kind of experience of a cyber incident, be it large, be it small, be it public, be it non-public. I think all of us have experienced it in one way or another. Then, of course, cost efficiency and competitive edge were the 2 last areas in this question. Then if we look at trending topics, and we look at how those have changed now from our first survey that we did last year to where we are today and the survey of today, you can see that there is a couple of things that are going through the survey. Phishing. Phishing as a topical area was important in our first survey. It was important for the respondents in the first survey for the 12 months to come, and it's the same right now. Many of our clients say that phishing is still going to be a really important area for us to handle in the next coming 12 months. One thing that I was a bit surprised about myself when I read through the findings here is that ransomware has been, and still is, quite big of a challenge for all of us. But strangely enough, in this year's survey, it did not make it to top 5 of challenges with our clients. So ransomware has actually dropped out of top 5, while we then instead say regulations, well, compliance, and AI coming in as new topical areas in the survey this year. And if we then focus only on the next 12 months, We see business resilience. It's been there, and it continues to be extremely important. And I think obviously that's the fundamental for all of us to do any kind of business, is to make sure that we are up and running digitally, physically, every day for our clients. So cloud security as well, as a topical area, I would say we started to see that in the survey last year, and it has also increased in importance now. And of course, the more SaaS solutions, the more cloudification that's happening in our companies, obviously we need to make sure, together with the industrial companies also having the convergence of IT and OT, the landscape is getting complicated. And we need to make sure that, of course, we are on top of the full environment from a cybersecurity perspective. Then the top priorities, as I said, we have 3 priority areas, our clients, say that the top 3 priority areas are security monitoring and incident response, security awareness, and identity and access management. Here you can see how they have developed year over year in our survey. The light blue bar being the results last year, and the dark blue bar being the results from this year's survey. And the security monitoring and incident response is kind of bread and butter. Our clients say that, of course, you need to have visibility in what's happening out there, try to be proactive, and also to be fast when you see incidents happen. So the whole process around security monitoring and incident response is growing in importance and is kind of bread and butter and basics. Awareness. I think one of the largest threats in cybersecurity is our employees. Not necessarily with bad intent, but by accident. By doing one wrong click or something, an employee can, by mistake, of course, initiate a cyber incident, right? So security awareness, I'm personally very happy to see that is on top of the agenda, because of course we also need to make sure that all the employees of each company are continuously trained on the development of cyber threats and how to also work safely digitally on the internet. And the third area, identity and access management, coming back to what I just said about the convergence of IT, OT, cloudification. It's also very important to stay on top of who and how do you grant access to your infrastructure, your systems, your data. If you think about zero trust architecture and listen to what Gartner is saying about zero trust, Gartner is saying that by 2026, 10% of the large companies out in the world will have a zero trust architecture in place, coming from less than 1% today. So you see the huge journey and road ahead of many companies to ensure that there's a zero trust architecture in place and a zero trust way of working. Also meaning that identity and access management is a hugely important topic to stay on top of for our clients. Then if we talk about the competence part, 60% of our clients say that they already today have a problem recruiting talent for the cybersecurity area. And there's a small box down to the right on this slide where ISC2, who actually in their latest survey said that globally there's a lack of 3 million cybersecurity experts. I have to say I'm sorry, that was the last year's number, and I have not updated the slide. In this year's report, they say 4 million. If you think about it, it's mind-blowing. There's 4 million cybersecurity experts globally missing to tackle the cybersecurity challenges that we have ahead. So how do we solve that then? I think what we are doing in Nixu at least is that we are looking at other talent pools to complement the cybersecurity expertise. For instance, IT industry, which is much more mature than the cybersecurity industry, there we can find a lot of talent that easily can be trained into cybersecurity experts. Also looking at management consultants. and bringing management consultants in to work with awareness and other kind of management maturity-related topics in the cybersecurity space. So we need to ensure that we look into other talent pools and tap into other talent pools to attract and build the future capabilities needed for cybersecurity. In our survey, if we look at the 370 organizations answering our survey, the summary of the gap of resources needed there are 1,300. So 1,300, so kind of from only 370 organizations in predominantly the Nordics that we have been interviewing, they say that they are lacking 1,300 cybersecurity experts today. Then the index itself. So if we talk about the index, we look at these 4 different segments that I talked about: current state, investments, how you work with management and cybersecurity, and future development. And then we score the answers based on the answers that we get from our clients, and then we build this index that goes from 10, which is the lowest score you can have in the index, up to 100, which is the highest score you can have in the index. And if you're, according to our index, if you're on 66 or above, then you're on satisfactory level. If you're on 76 or above, you're on a good level. If you're on 86 or above, then you're on an excellent level of cybersecurity capabilities in your company. And we can see that the overarching result in the cybersecurity index report this year dropped from last year when it was over 67 to below 65, which means that our clients' total summary of their feedback is that they have gone from a satisfactory state to a dissatisfactory state. And that's of course concerning, that cybersecurity is not moving in the right direction. It's getting harder and harder to actually address and work with cybersecurity topics. And if you look at the graph here, you see that half of the respondents say that they are poor or deficient in cybersecurity today. Half of our clients rate or score deficient or poor. And if you look at the country perspective, we did not have any scores for Denmark and Norway last year, so you don't see any trends there. But for Sweden and Finland, we had results last year, and you can also see how they are developing year over year. And both are going down. Sweden and Finland dropping, while Denmark and Norway coming in, actually both of them on satisfactory level, while Finland and Sweden being on deficient level in the survey. And Sweden dropping quite badly as well, and being quite low, to be honest. And I can see that. I'm a mix of Finnish, Swedish person, so I work in both communities, and I can say that in general, Finland is probably some 4 or 5 years ahead of Sweden when it comes to cybersecurity maturity and the way of how to work and act and address cybersecurity from a country perspective. Then I said there's a huge gap between what distinguishes the best from the rest. So if you look at the clients that score the best, you can see them on the left-hand side of this graph and the rest on the right-hand side. There are a couple of things that stands out for them. Risk management is one of the most critical capabilities and including then cybersecurity in risk management. The best, they work with it from a risk perspective. How do we handle cybersecurity from a risk management perspective? While the rest, they do it less. Second thing, cybersecurity being on the executive management team's agenda. Yes, it's handled on executive team and usually also in the board. There's high visibility, there's high understanding, and there's a high willingness also to invest from the executive team and board in securing that you do the right things within cybersecurity. While, if you look at the rest, only 18% of the lowest scoring clients have this topic on the executive team or the board agenda. Kind of scary to me that the awareness is not higher. And then if you look at the sizing, and this is of course always a bit of complicated thing, because of course you could see that half of our respondents were small mid-sized companies and the rest were large enterprises. So we see a trend that the bigger the cybersecurity team, the better you perform. So we have this distinguishment here. Have more than 2 people on the information security team, they perform usually better than the ones who have less. And then there's a lot about investments. The 3 last things on the slides is about investment. How much do you invest in cybersecurity? And you can see that those ones spending less than 200,000 euros on cybersecurity annually is the rest, or there are more companies or clients spending less than 200,000 euros a year, and they are not performing as well as those who invest more in cybersecurity. And the cost efficiency, the ones who actually tick that cost efficiency is the prime driver for cybersecurity. There were 30% of the rest doing that, and only 16% of the best having that ticked as a reason. And last but not least, the clients who allocate less than 5% of the total ICT budget on cybersecurity, the rest on 36%, and the best, only 5% of them allocate less than 5% of the ICT budget on cybersecurity. That kind of concludes the high-level summary of our cybersecurity index report. And there are QR codes here. You can download the report and read all the details yourself whenever you want. So I also promised something about how to tackle business resilience. And first of all, a quote here from a senior Finnish official earlier on this year, that Finland has seen a 4-fold spike in ransomware attacks since joining NATO. 4-fold. Have we really seen the impact? Have we really seen that publicly? Has that been noted? I don't think so. So does that mean that the cyber resilience or business resilience is not good enough? Maybe not. Maybe it actually is. Maybe the scare is bigger than the result actually is. However, the matter of the fact here is that we will not see less pressure from cyber incidents. We will not see less pressure from cyber attacks. This is actually a trend that will continue to develop. And if we would stand here a year from now, I think I would not show smaller numbers. I would probably show larger numbers here as well. So what do you then do then? What is business resilience, and how do you then address business resilience? So business resilience is, of course, about the ability to withstand and recover quickly from an incident in order to safeguard and maintain your daily operations. That is a definition of business resilience. And what do you then need in order to enable and build strong business resilience? Well, we talked about some of the things in the findings of the survey already, like, for instance, a strong culture of risk management. So cybersecurity should be handled as any other corporate risk and handled in enterprise risk management, like liquidity, like cash, like balance sheet questions. Cybersecurity is no different from that. Flexible and adaptable employees, well-trained, focus on the awareness topic, continuously educate your employees in order to stay and build resilience and understanding on how the threat picture is evolving on the outside as well. Robust IT infrastructure, clear backup solutions that are tested continuously, that you're able to recover quickly from cyber incidents, backup solutions separated from production environments, so there's no contamination in between. That's one area that is also extremely important in order to achieve business resilience. And then a strong supply chain. Ensuring that you're in control of your supply chain, work with your partners, your vendors, to understand how are their cybersecurity posture looking like. Because it only takes potentially an incident in one of your partners or vendors in the supply chain to stop your own supply chain. So that's very important to stay in control on the total supply chain that you possess in a company. Then, as a final slide, before we start getting into questions from you, Here is the white paper that we released earlier on this week, the 7 pillars of business resilience. I suggest and encourage you all to download that and read more about it. But in essence, if we summarize the 7 pillars, they all are very similar to what I've been presenting here already today. Start from the business strategy and business continuity. Cybersecurity has to be part of that. You have to think about how cyber can impact your business strategy and business continuity and business continuity management as well. Understand the threat landscape and the dependencies as well. Continuously stay connected to what's happening out there. Somehow have intel on how the threat landscape is developing and how that potentially could impact you in your operations. Governance, align cybersecurity with business goals and also ensure that cybersecurity is handled on all levels of the company. Executive team, board level, etc. There should be a full transparency and awareness about cybersecurity in all levels of a company. Set up the correct technical controls, both for monitoring, both for responding, but also the total IT infrastructure that we was just discussing. And then ensuring then abilities to detect, mitigate, restore, recover, and rebuild if you have all those technical capabilities already in place. Then it's about the process, a way of working, ensuring that you're on top of that. Rinse and repeat, and then last but not least, build awareness and culture around cybersecurity so that your employees continuously stay up to date and vigilant and a bit, suspicious on activities that they don't recognize when they enter their mailbox or whatever other digital asset. Right, that was what I planned to share with you today. I hope you did not fall asleep, even though it was after lunch, and I very much thank you for listening and welcome any questions that you might have. Thank you.
Teemu, thank you very much for a highly interesting and timely keynote, and thank you for leaving time for questions as well. So now, a little Q&A before we move on. So, as usual, when you want to ask something, when you have a question, just raise your hand and we'll get you a microphone, and then Teemu can elaborate a little bit more on these topics that he talked to us about. So do we have any questions? Anything you would like Teemu to explain a little bit more in detail, maybe?
I see smiling faces because Finland is beating Sweden. That's, I think, is important.
Very good, very good. And okay, we have the first question over here. Let's get you a microphone, sir. And there you go. So please.
Thank you. Elias Lankot, Riiste Paiti. I was wondering about the outcome of the report that I suppose especially Finnish respondents were of the opinion that their cyber maturity levels were pointing downwards. However, this is, I suppose, their self-assessment.
Yes.
And I was wondering that can it be partly due to the fact that maybe Finns tend to be a bit conservative, that are Finns maybe like downplaying that in reality we are in a better position than the respondents see themselves or report to you? How do you feel?
Yeah, and obviously in all surveys you do, and yes, first of all, if it's a self-assessment, Nixu has done nothing to kind of impact the result or score, and this is truly what you see that our clients are saying. That then of course there's a culture aspect to it, right? And I think, though, in the Nordics we have quite a similar, a bit humble culture in all the countries, right? But would you go outside of that, it would look different. However, despite the culture, I think the most important finding from the survey is to compare the result year over year, because I guess the culture was the same last year than it is this year. So we of course see how the dial is moving year over year, right? And I think that concerns me a little bit, right? And it's going actually in the wrong direction, to be honest. But so there I don't see any cultural impact, right? But yes, of course, if you would maybe ask, if you go far west in the world and ask maybe in US, maybe it's more positive kind of as well, the view. But that would be my answer to that. We look at least the development year over year, so to say, how it goes.
And just as a follow-up to that one, that was a great question, but what is the reason for declining maturity, even though it's self-assessment?
Well, there's probably, I don't have a straight answer to that, but there's probably many things. I've been thinking about that myself. And I think that also the rising awareness of how big this issue and this big question, how big this question is, just scares a little bit, right? And you say, oh, I'm not on top of this, right? And you rate a bit lower, saying that, yeah, we have a lot of things to do. Because it's a topic that the more you learn, the more you understand how difficult it is and how much there is to be done, so to say. And I think it also goes with the fact that it's still an immature area, cybersecurity, right? I mean, if you compare cybersecurity to supply chain or to financial management, it's not many years we've been talking about cybersecurity, to be honest. So it's a fairly new area as well.
But in your expert view, have we gone from bad to worse, or is it just that these companies have become more aware of this challenge?
I think it's a mix of both, I would say. If you look at the quote that I showed as well, that there's been a fourfold of ransomware attacks on Finland since joining NATO. But have we really had a fourfold of incidents? No, we haven't. Or at least not publicly known incidents. Right? We should have known and seen that. So I think it's more the first than the latter of your question.
Very good. And thank you for a great question. Do we have any other things on mind, on tip of your tongue, that you would like to ask?
Have one down there?
Yes, we have over there. Yeah, it's kind of hard to see from here. I'm sorry, but yeah, here we go.
Markus Söder from Atea. Regarding the pillars of business resilience that you mentioned, especially the first step. So could you please elaborate a bit the first step that you mentioned, that start from the business strategy and continuity? So let's say that I have an opportunity to discuss with the top management and executive team. So what would be the conversation? How would you start with that?
Well, I think that, take a very, I'm a practical person. Take a very simple thing. Let's say that you are working in a business where availability is key. You're selling flight tickets, right? If you can't sell flight tickets, your competition will sell the flight ticket, right? So of course, understanding what does it then mean to sell a flight ticket. Well, these days, I think that over 90% of flight tickets are bought online, right? And connect then that business strategy to what are the technical capabilities we need in order to ensure that our business strategy is fulfilled, and then work that backwards, right? So in order to have our technical environment up, in order to fulfill our business aspiration, our business strategy, we need this, right? And I think my own learnings from being a CIO in a big multinational company is that you need to take the technical discussion away in the executive team and the board level, right? You have to simplify, and you really have to talk business language, and then translate that both into the technical environment and also the technical environment into a business language with the executive team as well. It's a trick. It's not easy, but that's how it needs to be done.
Thank you for a great question, and I think we need to wrap up at this point. But Teemu will be here as well, so you can have a chat with him later on. But now, at this point, Teemu Salmi, thank you very much for the keynote and this little chat. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Teemu Salmi.
Thank you.